In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this text input demonstration using Python, PyGame, and a new module called PyGame GUI. As you can see here, we have a text box, a text input box. If we click out of it, then we can't type inside of it. But if we click inside of it, we can type and then we can enter. So let's say Brawltech. And when we press enter, it's going to say, hello, Brawltech. You can use this text input mechanic in your own games, but like I said, in this video, we're just going to be creating this demo. With that, let's get straight into the video. All right, before we do anything, you're going to have PyGame and PyGame GUI installed. I'm assuming you already have PyGame installed, but let's go ahead and install PyGame GUI using pip. So opening up our terminal here, we'll go ahead and say pip install PyGame_GUI. Hitting enter, it's going to say requirement already satisfied because I've already downloaded this for my own PC. But if you haven't done so, then it should just download with no worries. All right, so I've started out here in our code with a boilerplate script that basically gets a blank white screen up and running using PyGame. Let's go ahead and run this. And as you can see, we have a blank white screen. And in the top left, it says our caption. If we close this, we're not going to get any errors because we handled those errors right here in our event loop. If you don't know how to make this, then I have a video about PyGame boilerplate in the top right now. I'll leave a pastebin link for this in the description, like always. Let's go ahead and get started with the PyGame GUI boilerplate. All right, so the first thing we're going to need to do is import PyGame GUI. Now that we have that done, we can go ahead and create our UI manager using PyGame GUI. Our UI manager, like the name suggests, is going to manage all of our UI components, and it's going to be the main thing that creates all of our UI. So down here underneath our clock, we're going to say manager is equal to PyGame GUI.UI manager. For UI manager, we're going to need to pass in the width and the height of the screen, which is going to be width, height. Next, we can go ahead and get the manager up and running in our getUsername function. So this function is going to be the beginning part of our demonstration. This is where we're going to actually type into. So the first thing we're going to do is say manager.processEvents in our event loop. So here we're going to say manager.processEvents, and we're going to pass an event. So here we cycle through every event. We check first of all if we've quit, and then we pass in our current event to our manager to process and do a lot of stuff with. Next, we're going to need to update the manager. So this is going to, like the name suggests, update every UI element in the manager. So we're going to say manager.update. Here we're going to have to pass in the time delta, or as I like to call it, the refresh rate of our manager. For this, we're going to create a new constant variable called UI_refresh rate. And we can establish what this is up here in our while loop. We're going to say UI refresh rate is equal to clock, and that's in all caps, clock.tick 60. So we're going to be running in 60 frames per second divided by 1000. Because if we just left it at clock.tick 60, I've tried it and the manager is updated way too fast. What this means for us is that the cursor would blink way too fast, but since we want it to blink at a reasonable speed, we're going to say clock.tick 60 divided by 1000. Next, we can say manager.draw_UI, and we'll pass in our screen. So that's all the boilerplate we're going to need for our manager in PyGame GUI. If we go ahead and run this, we're going to get a white screen again because we don't have any UI components. But let's go ahead and create our text input now. So underneath our manager, we're going to go ahead and say text_input is equal to PyGame GUI.elements.UI text entry line. Once again, as you can see, there's a whole list of things you can choose from. UI text entry line is what we're going to be creating. We're going to have to pass in some parameters. The first one is going to be the rect. So we're going to say relative rect is equal to a new PyGame rect. So we're going to say PyGame.rect. The position of the rect is going to be at 350 on the x-axis and 275 on the y-axis. And the width and the height is going to be 950 respectively. So it's going to be a super long rectangle. The manager is going to be our manager. So manager equals manager. And the object ID, which is used to identify our UI object, is going to be something like #main text entry. So we're going to use this to check if we've pressed the enter button on our text input. All right, now that we have that, we can go ahead and run our code and see if we get a text entry line. And it's actually missing a required positional argument manager. Okay, what do we do wrong here? Yeah, so we put the parentheses in the wrong place. Delete that. There should be two parentheses for our rect. Okay, running this again, as you can see, we have our text entry line, and we can go ahead and click inside of it. Our cursor is going to blink. If we click outside of it, it's not going to blink. And we can go ahead and type in whatever we want. We can say backspace, we can say Control A, Control C, Control V, Control A, Control X, bunch of things. The next thing we're going to need to do is implement pressing enter. So to do this using PyGame GUI is actually super simple. In our event loop, we're simply going to check if event.type equals PyGame GUI.UI text entry finished and event.UI underscore object underscore ID is equal to hashtag main text entry. If both those conditions are met, then that means we've pressed enter within our text entry line. So we're going to create a new function called show text, which is just going to show our text. As you saw in the beginning, it's going to say hello and then the text that we put in. So show text, and then we're going to pass in event.text. Lastly, let's go ahead and put the text on the screen by creating our show text function. So let's go ahead and say def show text. We're going to pass in text to show as the only parameter. The first thing we're going to do is copy and paste all of this code because we're going to need another while loop for our new screen. If you don't know how different screens work in PyGame, I actually have a video on that in the top right now. We can also delete all of the UI stuff because we have no UI on our new screen. We just have the text. So we can go ahead and delete that, and that, and that, and finally that. Now if we go ahead and run our code and type something into our text box, we should go to a white screen. Let's just type something in, hit enter, and yeah, we go to a white screen. So that works. Now let's go ahead and put it in our text. The way we're going to do this is underneath screen.fillWhite, we're going to say new text is equal to pygame.font.sysfont. The font we're going to use is called Bandschrift. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's some German word. The font size is going to be 100, and we're going to render this. And to render this, we're going to pass in an f string. So an f string, if you don't know, allows us to pass in data through a string. So we're going to say f and then our quotes, hello, and then in brackets, it's going to be text to show. Then we're going to pass in anti-aliasing. So basically, it's going to make our text look a bit nicer. We're going to pass in true, and then the color is going to be black. We're going to create a rect for this. So new text rect is equal to new text.getRect. The center is going to be the center of the screen. So width divided by 2, comma, height divided by 2. We're going to blit this new text onto the screen at the position of the new text rect. So we're going to go ahead and say screen.blit new text with new text rect. We're going to say clock.tick60. And believe it or not, we're actually done here. So if we go ahead and run our code, if we put in a name, it's going to say hello and then the name that we put in. Let's go ahead and run our code. Let's put in Brawltech. Hello, Brawltech. Running it again. Let's go ahead and say, I don't know, Big Gan. Hello, Big Gan. Let's go ahead and say the latest member of the Oilers to renew his contract, Jesse Puljujärvi. Hello, Jesse Puljujärvi. And yeah, so this is going to be the end of the tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. Now you can use text input in PyGame using PyGame_GUI. If you found this helpful in any way, please consider liking the video. And if you really liked it, then subscribe to the channel to see more content like this in the future. Make sure to tell me what you want to see in the future in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel because a whopping 420 quinvigatillion% of you are not subscribed. So yeah, if you want to change that to something like, I don't know, 300 quinvigatillion by the end of this month, that would make you really happy. So go ahead and subscribe. I hope to see you in the next video, but until then, have a good day.